Hi, friends! I'm really bad at doing this regularly. Want to see what I did anyway? Hey, everyone! It's nice for you to see me again. One thing I think is interesting is it seems like on Flosstube, people like have a schedule, they do things regularly, try to, there's a formula, and I'm just like, I'm doing none of that. I think it's been about 2 months since I did my last Flosstube update. I have like so much. It's kind of even worse because the longer I go, then it means the more things I have to share, and then it just piles up, and then, yeah, it gets out of hand. Anyway, I have a lot to tell you today. Also, I've just had a bunch of life stuff kind of getting in the way, making it a little bit harder for me to stitch or have the time to do this type of thing. I decided to start job searching at the end of the school year. That was a bad decision. I would not recommend. But I do have bunches of fun things. Before I get into the stitching, though, if you haven't already noticed, I recently posted a video with a bunch of resources about Indigenous history and how to learn more about Indigenous people and who we are. If you didn't already know, I am mixed Indigenous, so that is something that is near and dear to my heart. And that was one of the reasons why it took me so long because it was information I really wanted to share based on, based on the level of knowledge I've seen in the cross stitch community. So if you are here, I think that means you care at least a little bit about me. So it would really mean a lot if you would take the time to just really meaningfully watch that video and follow up on some of those resources. I know everyone is at a different place. We don't always have the time to do all of the education. And I specifically gave, several options because maybe some feel right for you now. And if you need to, you can go back later. I was actually so flustered in that other video. I forgot to talk about what I was wearing because I was wearing traditional Okinawan textiles, but I guess I'll have to do more of an update on that later. You might have noticed there's new things behind me. So many exciting things. The thing I am most excited about is not stitching related at all. It is my new land back print. So this was a special by 8th Generation. So it is an Indigenous owned company with the tagline inspired native, not native inspired. And they just, everything they do makes my heart full. So this specific print is by artist Bethany Fackrell. She's a Snoqualmie artist. And what I love is there are so many different native plants to the Pacific Northwest here in this print. I am not a plant person, so I'm not particularly knowledgeable about which is what. But if you go to 8th Generation and find this print, there is a description of all of the different plants that are in this. And I love that all of the thought that went back or that went into this. And this is one of the reasons why we want Indigenous art by Indigenous artists, because there are going to be more meaningful elements because it's coming from someone with a little bit deeper knowledge. I will say I'm not like super impressed with how my bookshelf is looking. I don't think it looks as neat as it used to. Eventually we're going to need to do a little bit of rejiggering, but I felt it was really important to have this in my background. So that's where it's living for now. But I actually just like recently started and completely finished some projects. So let's start there. So I made a new friend recently and I wanted to make something for them. And this free pattern popped up in my feed. This was a freebie by Panochka Stitches. And just this person really likes to garden and they have some beautiful lavender in their garden. So I, found this pattern. I actually recharted it because it makes me happy when I can put the thing in Pattern Keeper, even if it's this tiny. So I recharted it and I experimented with a couple different colors. So here, this is a variegated DMC. I want to say it's 4250. And then I tried to find a coordinating purple. So I actually used one of those online charts that, tells you the solid colors that correspond to a DMC variegated color. But then I noticed that the purple was actually a slightly different shade. So anyway, I'm like way babbling. Look at what I did. Isn't it pretty? I did all of this in maybe 2 or 3 days, including framing. For framing, I also just went super cheap. I cut it out. It's Ada. I have discovered that when you're doing quick framing like this in a relatively cheap frame, so this is one of those frames that it opens up and it kind of swings back. You can't like take the whole back off. For those types of frames, I think it's actually easiest if you use Ada that's kind of stiff and you just cut it out and call it good. Because there's just not that much room, so it'd be hard to, like wrap and lace in the back and just cutting it. It's great. So I'm super happy with this. So I am seeing this friend tomorrow, which is why I had to do this so quickly. But also, I was like, this is for a male friend, and I was like, oh no, did I put too much purple? Did I make it too Laura-y? Because purple is my favorite color. Is he gonna think it's too girly? Because it's unfortunately one of those people. I think purple's for everyone, but not everybody agrees with me. So in my panic, I'm like, okay, this friend also has a pomegranate tree he's really proud of. So I also quickly stitched a pomegranate. So here I just took a single motif from a big sampler and stitched it. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but it's sparkly fabric. Because if you have the option to have sparkles, you should have sparkles. That's kind of my MO in life. I am not super in love with this finish, but it is finished. I think I would want the margins to be just a teeny bit closer. And also, like, I decided to make sure that this was all even, but then this is closer. I don't know. It's done. Hopefully, he'll like it. It's less girly. He's getting both of them. But yeah, I really like stitching things for my friends, and it was nice to like suddenly have inspiration strike because I actually haven't been stitching that much in the past 2 months because I have just been busy working and doing job search and just, ugh, I've been very busy. Anyway, I have some other finishes too. So I showed you this little guy unfinished, I think last time. So again, this is another freebie by Pinochka Stitches. This is tiger lace because this year is the year of the tiger. And I finally finished it in this adorable frame. So this frame is from 3 inches hand embroidery. And what this one is fun is it comes in a couple different pieces and the back you just there's adhesive and you stick it right on. I love these frames. You'll notice there is a little bit of damage here. I'm pretty sure that was me. It definitely did not come like that, but just know if you do get one of the frames with a little filigree, you do want to treat it delicately. Don't be like me. Eventually, I think I'm going to go try and find a marker so I can just, make it a little less obvious. But there's 3 pieces because there's an interior thing that you wrap around and then you adhere the back. I did find that I had to like set it under some books for a couple of hours just to help make sure that everything adhered properly. But like, these are my favorite frames, y'all. It's the easiest. The back is enclosed. This is the same company that did this frame. Just every frame I've gotten from them has been phenomenal. Highly recommend. So super happy with this tiny little finish. It's so cute. Yeah, it's just nice to like have things checked off, it's done. You might also notice there's another new thing behind me. So I finally framed my coronavirus. I am slightly regretting my life decisions here because it's attached to the wall. I use those 3M Velcro strip things. So it is Velcroed to the wall, and I'm afraid if I try and tear it off, it's going to be hard to stick back on the wall perfectly. So, yeah, coronavirus stays. This, I used a different framing company this time. So this one was ACMS Needle Workshop. I found them on Etsy. It's a little bit more expensive. Not quite as easy as this frame, but it's just a different look. And I mean, I think the finish is a little bit fancier. If you are really curious, I put some pictures on my Instagram. Sorry, I do not have enough time to edit and put fancy pictures in my video. But anyway, so I love, like, you'll notice there's this little bump here. It looks fancy. It's painted. What was another great thing was unprompted, the seller, like, reached out to me after, so I purchased it. I was like, I need this size. And I actually originally requested a grain frame. And the seller reached out to me and was like, hey, can you send me a picture of what you're planning to frame, and give me like an idea of what size it is? And then he sent me several mock-ups with different colors. So I originally thought I wanted a green frame to, go with the green of the, oh dear, viral envelope. Ooh, yeah, I need to look up my molecular biology here. But I originally wanted green. But the greens he had just like weren't quite right. And we both agreed the red was just fabulous. So I'm really happy and just really impressed with the excellent customer service. What's going on in the middle is it's actually a hoop, and this he gives you the hoop with the frame, so it's going to fit exactly. Because I've seen a couple Etsy sellers where they just kind of sell the outer thing that you can pop over a hoop, but then you have to pay really close attention to make sure that the wooden hoop you have will actually fit within their frame. And I would prefer just to pay a little extra to this particular seller to get everything all in once, so I knew it would work. I originally framed this one like a year ago. But it was just a little bit too big. The margins were too big and it just looked a little bit off. And I'm much happier with this fancy frame. It gives the importance it deserves. And you probably can't see it from there, but it is opalescent 14 count Ada because more sparkle is kind of my MO. So I'm really happy with that one. And look, I have another finish. It's also sparkly because sparkles are life. So this one is the Dove of Peace by my friend Aya Rosen. I am just so in love with making friends with different designers, and then it means my house is full of finishes by my friends, and that's just amazing. This one, so like this was a really quick stitch, and I think technically this was my first 1/1 piece. So this is, ooh, want to say it's 32 count even weave sparkly, silver. And this is Dinky Dyes. So this is actually silk. This is again also my first thing in silk. Went fairly well. Only bad thing is because it was 1/1, like the thread lasted really long, so you can't really see the variegation. Or at least in the Dove here, it was a little too subtle. You can see a little bit of variegation in the leaves there though. I did have a fun time completely over engineering the back of this hoop finish. So this is thick. There's a lot going on back here that you can't see. But like this is a perfect, beautiful flat finish. And how I accomplished that is inside there is a layer of batting, which I cut to size. And then on the back, what I did is sandwiched in between the felt and, the back, there's actually also a circle of cardboard. Because I have done finishes like this before where you do the blanket stitch for the felt and it just looks lumpy. And I know it's the back, but it bothered me. So having the extra layer of the batting to make sure everything here stays nice and flat, but then also the layer of cardboard to make sure that this stays flat, like I'm much happier. Unfortunately, I think this means I'm not going to be doing as many hoop finishes because it was a lot of extra work. This type of frame was by far the easiest finish I've ever done. I'm probably going to try and continue to do that. But I'll do these every now and then. And it's just nice to have another finish and another pattern by my friend. Aya is so wonderful. And it's nice to be making more friends in the cross stitch community. What hilariously, Aya and I friended each other on Facebook, and we have a mutual friend. The world is sometimes a really small place like that. So, hi Aya, hope you're watching. I also have another finish. It's not a complete finish. So this is a wedding present for one of my dear friends, Peter. He's getting married this fall. So both he and his fiance are geologists, and they met in the geology department of the University of Texas, Austin. So this was actually a pattern chosen by them, obviously, Bedrock Geology of Texas here. And I love how this pattern includes the key. So, here's all the rocks that are Quaternary, Tertiary, Paleocene, Cretaceous, Jurassic, Triassic, Paleozoic, and all the way to Precambrian. And then he put a little heart approximately where Austin was. That was probably the most nerve-wracking part of this, because I was like looking at maps and being like, is that where Austin is? Does that match with that geological thing? Because I know it's approximately there, but there's like a lot of stuff going on geologically, and I didn't want to place it in the wrong place. So I did send a picture to them, and they did confirm, or they haven't confirmed exactly. They said it looks great. They were very happy. So they have not told me I did anything wrong. And then here along the Gulf Coast, I added their wedding date. I am so excited to go to this. Hilariously, I did not enjoy stitching this at all. Like, it's a great story. I love Peter. I don't know his fiance as well, but everything about her seems wonderful, and I'm excited to get to know her more. It's just, I like stitching patterns that have distinct motifs, and there's like nothing motify about this. Like, the pattern itself is great, and like major props to the designer, because they have like I want to say they have all 50 states with the geology, and then they have a few other patterns that are watersheds or ecological zones or bathymetry of some of the Great Lakes. So really cool science patterns. It's just not the particular type of thing that I personally want to stitch. And the pattern, like loaded in Pattern Keeper, excellent. So if this is your jam, you should definitely go check it out. It's just I'm learning things about myself, about what I do and do not want to stitch. I just don't like this fabric. So this is 14 count Aida. I'm discovering I don't really like 14 count Aida. So for this pattern, I knew I really needed the thick coverage for this thing. So I used 3 strands, which meant I couldn't use my favorite loop start. I did look up some videos of how to do a single stranded loop start, or because you can do the same thing with 3 strands. It's fine. It's not the same. And I feel like my back is a little bit messy, and I'm not as, positive that my threads are as secure this way. And just dragging 3 strands through the fabric, it was harder, and it was like, I don't know, it was like scratchy or something. It wasn't the smooth, beautiful experience. So I am not going to be using this fabric again. I mean, it's gorgeous. I don't know if you can see, but it is sparkly. This is Gold Dust Aida from Charles Craft. So if you like 14 count, maybe you should check this out. But I know I will not be buying this again. I love stitching things for friends, as you can tell. Like, I'm, just randomly stitched 2 gifts for a friend. But in the future, I will probably give more guidelines to friends and be like, here's some things that make me think of you. Why don't you choose one of this small subset rather than choose literally anything and hope I don't hate it. But yeah, Peter and Kimmy really like this. Oh, what was super cool is I was sending them progress pics at one point, and Peter was really excited that I got to this red dot. He called it the Lano Uplift. Of course, he's a geologist, so he knows these things, but he told me what it was. Let me find out. It's the Lano Uplift. It's Precambrian and pretty much the only granite in Texas. It's apparently where they go in their new student orientation. And then the boundary between the blue and green is the Balcones Fault Zone. Oh, wow. It apparently causes a climate shift, and it's where all of the springs emerge. Austin, San Antonio, Waco, San Marcos, and some of the smaller Texan cities are right on the boundary, and that's where a lot of the rivers cross that line. The Colorado River apparently also crosses the Lano Uplift and picks up a really distinctive strontium isotope signature, and Austin pulls its municipal water from that river. All the streams that run through the city, should have a strontium isotope signature like soil water, but they match the something river that they flow into instead. Interesting. So yeah, I have learned a lot more about the geology of Texas than I ever thought I would know. Whenever I find a bad geology meme, I send it to Peter. I was so amused and surprised to learn through him that like half of geology, you lick the rocks. Like that's a thing you do. But then the other half of geology, you absolutely do not lick the rocks, which I just think is wild. Yeah, geology, weird field. Thank you for helping us understand how old different things are. So I think that's kind of all of the stitching I've done lately. But I do have some other fun things. Mainly, I made friends, y'all. Um, so even though I haven't been doing as much cross stitch over the past 2 months because I've had some other things to do, I've just decided to reach out and make friends. So I've actually reached out to a couple people. We've had some lovely different Zoom calls. I got some career advice from other people who are in education, which was really fun. Apparently, this is not a thing people do. I'm the weird one who's like, reach out, like, hey, want to have a video call? Want to be friends? So no, if I've asked that, I like you and I think you're cool, and we should do more of that. And even more exciting is I got to meet some Stitchy friends in person. I happened to be in the Chicago area, so I reached out to Nitya and then Nitya of Daybreak Stitchery and then Miriam of Marumi Designs, and we all had dinner together, and it was absolutely lovely. We just like stayed chatting for 3 hours. We closed out the restaurant. And I'm so excited. But look what Nitya gave us. Nitya gave us the most beautiful threads. I mean, they're just DMC, but what she did is like picked a DMC variegated and then gave us the coordinating colors that go with it. So my plans is I'm going to stitch one of Miriam's designs because she has all of those gorgeous designs based on Iranian GABA patterns. So these motifs from nomadic carpets. And now I'm feeling really self-conscious. I totally could have looked this up before I started filming, and I didn't. But I'll link it below. You should definitely look it out. But yeah, I'm just like super pleased that I'm going to be stitching one of Miriam's designs with Nitya's threads because we all had dinner together, and it's going to be so awesome. I already know which of Miriam's designs I'm going to stitch. Can you guess? She has a couple different animals out, so you can go check it out. If you know which one is related to a biology meme, then you'll be able to guess it. I really like memes, y'all. My memes are fire. Oh, in other news, my other friend I've made is Kaylee of Kaylee Cross Stitch, and look at the adorable floss drop she sent me. So here's Susie. I got 3 different pictures. Susie is so beautiful. And it's also amusing because I also have a black cat. Susie is just like so chill and cuddly, but she's also an older lady. I think she's 10. My Ruthie just turned 3, and oh my goodness, she has so much energy. She does have the ability to be stealthy. She can't be stealthy until she's not. She gallops everywhere. You can, there are times where you really know where she is. She is unfortunately not necessarily a cuddler. She is in the same room as me a lot. She's actually over there taking a nap. She would be unhappy if I bothered her, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, we both have black cats, but they have very different personalities. But inspired by Kaylee, I'm like, oh, I had never really been interested in floss drops before, but then I'm like, oh, when I can add pictures of my cat, I made my own floss drops. So I haven't actually sent them to anybody yet because I've been busy. But if you have a strong desire for black cat floss drops, you can let me know. I do already have in mind some people I'm going to send them to first, but I might still have extras. But yeah, I used moo.com, so the backs all have the same design, and I specifically left a little bit of white space in case you want to write on them what it is. But then I use their Printfinity option, so I have 5 different pictures of Ruthie. I had so much fun designing these. So yeah, very proud of myself. Ah, so one thing I talked about last time was WIPGO. I'm attempting to do WIPGO. I was really inspired by my friend Lauren from Cross Stitch Bunny, listening to how she, made her WIPGO board and then, completely transformed it to work better for her. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I can do that. So I started WIPGO and I've completely changed all of my goals like multiple times. And I think that's just how this year is going to go. And partially what I've had to do to the reason that I've changed my goals is like things popped up. So I ended up making little gifts for Nitya and Miriam when I saw them. So I changed one of my WIPGO goals to reflect the stitching I had done for that. I actually changed a recent goal to, include this pomegranate pattern because this is a thing I've done. So I guess I'm kind of doing it backwards in a sense, that I'm using it partially to track the things I have done as a way to, show that I have made progress on stitching. And that works for me right now. It's my WIPGO board. I'm going to do what I want with it. Maybe in the future, I will try to do it more like set goals for the year and actually do them. But that will work out a little bit better when I don't, decide to job search in the middle of the year and throw everything into chaos. Yeah. Oh my God, I have so many notes. So one cool thing I have been doing that's not cross stitch is I have picked back up some Sashiko. So Sashiko is a Japanese textile art. It is a type of quilting. So here is a style of Sashiko called hitomazashi. So it's one stitch. So each of these stitches is one big stitch. And what you do is you just do big, long running stitches. So you can kind of see it in the back a little bit better, but you'll notice here on the carrots, there's lines that go across. So then you can see you just go across. And then, there's some vertical and some diagonal. And traditionally, this was a way to strengthen fabric. So it both makes it stronger so you can help mend things, but it also, you can put multiple layers of fabric together and it helps trap a little bit of air in between so it makes them warmer as well. So this comes from kind of the northern, more mountainous region of Japan. So not exactly where my ancestors came from. My ancestors came from Okinawa. But it's been fun to learn a little bit more about this because it's kind of like what my cousins did, So I've bought several kits by Japanese companies. I think this is an Olympus kit. Here is another Olympus kit. Got the bunnies to go with the carrots. And then this one, it was a Habira Habairi. So different brand, but still Japanese kit. This is like been everyone's favorite one when I've been showing it on my Instagram. It's the simplest pattern. It's just, this little 6-pointed flower star thing, but it's variegated thread. And the back on this one just looks so cool because it turns into this really cool hexagonal pattern. But yeah, sometimes the simplest ones add a little pizzazz and they're everybody's favorite. So these are marketed as hanafukin or handkerchiefs. So I honestly, these are probably all gifts. I know who I'm giving these to for. I haven't quite yet decided who is getting these, but I have many friends where I'm like, oh, I need to make something for them. I've actually already given one away. So I've made 4 so far, and one was a graduation gift for one of my besties who recently graduated from law school. I am so proud of her. So yeah, the reason I've been doing these lately rather than cross stitch is I find these patterns a lot easier to travel with. So when I buy these in kits, the pattern is pre-printed on the fabric. So you just follow. It's very mindless. It's great. And I don't need to bring the pattern with me. I don't need my tablet. There's just less stuff. As I get more and more into cross stitch, my setup gets more and more extravagant. And I have just totally stopped even attempting to try and travel with cross stitch. I cross stitch right here. It's pretty much the only place anymore. I don't even move around my house because I have my big floor stand. I love my scroll frames. I love my floor stand. I have, this big fancy clamp that puts my tablet right above where my frame is. Like, why would I mess with that? But since I was traveling to do some job interviews over the past couple months, that's where I got a bunch of this done. So it's been nice to, go back and forth, try some different things. So if you want to try Sashiko, highly recommend. Again, this is a traditional Japanese art. So if you want to learn more, you should go to the source. And I have a couple excellent sources for you. My personal favorite is Sashiko's story. So that is by Atsushi Sensei. His work is gorgeous, but also, especially on his Instagram, he has many lovely posts talking about cultural appropriation. There has been a lot of cultural appropriation of sashiko, primarily in the quilting community. But we want to make sure that we are, respectfully representing the culture it comes from. And also making sure that if you are monetizing something, that you deserve to monetize that. So that's why if this is something you want to do, make sure you're going back to these sources. So buy from a Japanese person. Atsushi Sensei also has a bunch of different classes and workshops. I think some of them are now virtual because he transitioned to virtual over the pandemic. Now things are starting to come back in person. Those are mostly at quilting events, but I'll link all of his stuff in the description box below. Highly recommend you check him out. The other one I like to follow is Sashiko Lab. So that's Kazue. I believe she is in Japan. Atsushi Sensei actually lives in New York City now. But Kazue is in Japan, and she has a couple of, I think, online classes. Right now, she has her Ultimate Hanafukin, which is this gorgeous project with like different sections with different traditional patterns. So you like work on it little small bit, and then you get to learn how to do that pattern. And then she also has an Etsy store where you can buy both PDF patterns of different traditional sashiko patterns, but also kits. I greatly prefer pre-printed kits. I do not want to have to transfer the pattern onto the fabric. That does not sound like a good time to me. But hey, if that sounds like a good time to you, there are options. So whenever you're engaging in another culture like this, try to be respectful. Go to the source. Make sure you're thinking about who is financially benefiting from that transaction. Because it's good for people to engage in another culture. The weirdness just comes about when, the money is going in a weird place. And that's the two main things you want to think about around cultural appropriation are respect, like is it respectful and accurate, but also who's getting that financial benefit. Follow the money. This is things I think about all the time, if you couldn't tell. Probably going to continue to talk about it more in the future. I wonder sometimes if that's why I only have 200 followers. Anyway, I did receive a comment that I haven't actually revealed what I teach yet. This is for a couple reasons. First, I'm just like a little bit nervous about putting personal information on the internet. Um, I've been like very intentionally vague. I haven't told you exactly where I live. I haven't told you exactly what I do. And like, I'm glad all of you were excited by the whole common threaded stitcher thing, but like, that was a lot of like personal questions you're just putting out there on the internet. So a little bit, but also I wanted you guys to guess. So why don't you try and guess? So you do have a couple clues. So I'm still teaching virtually. Like this is my classroom. So everything here is mostly intentional. I feel like some of the decorations have gotten ahead of me. I might need to pare it down a little bit, but at least all these books here, like this was intentionally chosen because this is my classroom. Maybe it's harder to read some of these titles than I thought, so I'll read some of these for you. I'll give you some hints. So animal, primates in perspective. primate adaptation and evolution, biological anthropology, the natural history of humankind, essentials of biological anthropology, the human lineage, human evolutionary genetics, population genetics, molecular evolution, an introduction to population genetics and evolution, genetic algorithms and simulated annealing, genetics for dummies, coalescent theory. This book melted my brain. Human biological variation, the human strategy. Hands down, the best textbook I have ever read. Unfortunately, it's at textbook prices, but like so worth the money. An alternative introduction to biological anthropology, human biological diversity, human variation, easy anatomy and physiology, why I am not a scientist, anthropology and modern knowledge, fatal invention. If you want to read any book on my bookshelf, it should definitely be this one. I read this one the first year in graduate school, and oh my goodness, it changed the entire trajectory of what I thought I was going to do. And then, of course, I have Strunk and White, The Elements of Style. Excellent book. It is so tiny, but so powerful, and my writing got a lot better. It's a lot easier to teach students how to write, too. The stuff on my second shelf, also pretty cool. Structure of Evolutionary Theory, Evolution and the Diversity of Life, Evolution, Speciation, Classification and Human Evolution, The Genetics of Human Populations, How Real is Race, The Evolution of Cooperation, Catching Fire, the one by Richard Wrangham, the primatologist, not the YA book. Why Evolution is True. If evolution is not your jam, this one by Jerry Coyne, Why Evolution is True, this is the one you should read. Excellent book. I love it. Jerry Coyne's kind of like my idol. He's super cool. Your Inner Fish, another great pop sci book about evolution. In the Shadow of Man, Jane Goodall. And then some books that I think are less important, and they're hiding behind Hobnob. Let's not deserve Hobnob. Thank you, Hobnob, for keeping everything safe for me. So yeah, I look forward to your guesses on what I teach, or what you think I studied. Also, the other big hint is, why do you think I'm obsessed with tarsiers? Like, you remember this entire channel? I'm apparently marketing my entire personality off of liking tarsiers. I promise you there is more to me than just tarsiers, but yeah, apparently that's the thing I've chosen to share with the world. Anyway, yeah, done a lot. Again, it would really mean a lot to me if you could meaningfully engage with the other video I put out with resources on how to understand a little bit more about Indigenous people and our history. We've had to deal with a lot of erasure, lots of genocide. It sucks. I do see things are getting a little bit better out there, but still Indigenous people tend to be last and forgotten. And it's not fun. We want to be included too. We want the same opportunities. Yeah. Things that you can do if you would like to be a good ally, if you are not an Indigenous person, is find some resources, but also share them. I don't have that much of a platform. I don't post regularly. One of the reasons I don't have much of an audience here. But that means that's where you have the power. Use the privilege of your position to share that and encourage others to do the same learning. Thank you if you've made it to the end, listening to me ramble. Hopefully there is something enjoyable here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you soon.